Hello and welcome back to bicyclelegs Talks Music, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Inspired as I often am by my good friend Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, I thought I would share with you a little bit of my recent purchases from one of my favourite record stores, which is Stash Records in Camp Hill. If you're ever in Brisbane, go to Stash Records in Camp Hill and tell Skipper I said hi. And I thought, in particular, I often go through the cheap bins at record stores, such as Stash. I think Stash has the best cheap bins in town. Skipper calls his cheap bins the alfresco chum, because he has them outside, and you can sort of scroll through all the different boxes before you go inside and sort of get the main dish, as it were, with the record store. And I often like to go through the cheap bins and see what I can pull out. They're very good value there. And recently I picked up 8 records from the cheap bins at Stash. Paid a grand total of $30 for them. And they're usually pretty good quality. So I thought I'd go through them and just show you what I picked up in my most recent visit. I actually visited just before the cyclone hit here in Brisbane. And I came back. I haven't had a chance to listen to these, or I'll probably give them a bit of a clean first before I put them on the record player. And yeah, I'm looking forward to giving these a spin. So let's go through them in no particular order, just in the order I happen to have them in my little pile here. And the first one is an Australian record, and that is a record called Howzat by Sherbet. Now, the title track was a big hit for them, but I don't really know a lot of the other songs on this record. Really, the only Sherbet record I own at the moment is a best of, and it's from the early years too. So, you know, in the 70s there was a big rivalry between Sherbet and Skyhooks. I was too young to really sort of get into it at the time, but in the 80s, when I was sort of really getting into music, I was definitely Team Skyhooks. But Sherbet are a really good pop band. They're not just a teeny bop band. There's some really good music to be had. Certainly if that best of that I've got is anything to go by. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this record and hearing a little bit more, some of the deep cuts of this sort of legendary Australian band, Sherbet. When they went overseas, they called themselves the Sherbs, and they called themselves Highway. They had these different names. But yeah, the next record we'll have a look at in this pile is actually something I do already have, but this is the collector in me. I have the second edition with a completely different cover, and it has an extra track on it. So when I saw this in the cheap bins, I thought, oh, let's be a bit of a completist and get the original cover and the original track listing as well. And that is Friends of Mr. Cairo by John and Vangelis. I really like this record. I'm looking forward to giving it another spin with this different cover. I'll put up on the screen the cover that I've got of this record, and you'll probably be fairly familiar with that one as well. But they changed the track listing. I think they added an extra song on the second one, and they flipped around the order of the tracks and all that sort of thing. But I really like the John and Vangelis stuff. It's ethereal. It's, you know, got a bit of an ambient thing going. Please don't mind my cat Stella meowing in the background. She just wants some attention. And yeah, it's a really good record. And I really like the John and Vangelis stuff. So a little bit different from Yes, a little bit different from what Vangelis was even doing in his solo career. But it's a good record, and I look forward to having the original version to play. Now, the next two we're going to have a look at are by the same artist. This is one of these artists where I know 3 or 4 songs that are, you know, really well-known songs by this artist, but I've never really dived into the catalogue. So I saw these in the Chum, and I thought I'll buy these and give them a go and see, because, you know, this is an artist who's held in very high regard. The artist I'm talking about is Carly Simon, and the albums I got are Anticipation and Hotcakes. Now, I don't think any of these have the sort of big hits on them. There's no You're So Vain on these, or there's no Nobody Does It Better. You know, those are the songs I really know, Jessie. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into it because I do like that sort of 70s singer-songwriter US kind of thing, the bit of the LA. You know, I'm a huge Jackson Browne fan. I'm a big Warren Zevon fan. You know, so those sort of singer-songwriteries. You know, I like James Taylor, who Carly Simon was married to at the time. Certainly at the time that this record was out. In fact, I think she's pregnant with their child on the front cover of that record. But yeah, I'm looking forward to sort of diving into these. So if you're a Carly Simon fan, let me know in the comments what I'm sort of got to expect. Because I'd really like to know. Next one is one you see quite a bit in sort of cheap bins, and you know, I've got a couple of other of his records and I quite enjoy them. They're very smooth and all that sort of thing. So I thought I'd give this one a go. And that is Middleman by Boz Scaggs. I think I've got the albums either side of this one, Down to Then Left and Silk Degrees. So, as I say, you know, he's that really sort of smooth rock, yacht rock, some people will call it now. Of course, that's not what it was called at the time. But I always liked him as a vocalist, and he's a good guitar player as well. So, yeah, another record I'm sort of really looking forward to getting into and having a listen to. So, yeah, you know, I think then I've got sort of the 3 Boz Scaggs albums that, you know, pretty much anybody owns. And that sort of thing. The next one is by an artist that I've got like the first couple of records of. This is a bit later in his oeuvre, as it were. And the record is called Good Evening, and it is by Marshall Crenshaw. I've got his first 2 albums, as I say, and I really, really like those. This one's co-produced by David Kirschenbaum, who I really know for producing a lot of those early Joe Jackson albums. So he also worked with Tracy Chapman on her first couple of records. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think this is from 1989, whereas like his first couple of records are from the very beginning of the 80s. He's kind of a roots rocker, or, you know, that sort of thing. Whereas I feel this album, I believe, is a little more polished, a little more sort of produced. So I'll be interested to see what the songs are like and how they sort of compare with the early records, and also what the production is like compared with those. Because those early records are fairly dry records. There's not a lot of production in them. They're recorded pretty much as is. Speaking of artists, where I've got a record from a little later in their catalogue in this pile, whereas I've got some of his stuff from sort of late 70s. This is Land of Dreams by Randy Newman. Again, this is from like 1988 or 89. What does it say on the cover here? 88. So again, I'll be interested to see what it sounds like. One of the producers is Mark Knopfler. You also have James Newton Howard. Jeff Lynne also produces some of it. So no doubt those songs are going to have that very Jeff Lynne sound, which you either love or you hate. I'm rather a fan of it. You know, what am I expecting on this album? Well, I'm expecting that typical wit of Randy Newman in his songs. That voice that people either love or they hate. You know, so yeah, I'm looking forward to this one, seeing what his late 80s work was like, or how it sounded compared with his sort of more classic period stuff. And then the last one of this pile, I was really happy to find this one. Again, I've got a lot of her sort of late 70s, early 80s stuff, but this is from later on. And it's in fact where I first heard this artist. The album is Dream of Life by Patti Smith. Now, I know the Patti Smith stuff from the earlier days. You know, I got into that later. But the first Patti Smith song I ever heard was People Have the Power. And I always really, really loved that song. But I never went out and bought the album. So I'm looking forward to playing this album again. You know, obviously I know that it's going to sound different from those late 70s Patti Smith group albums. You know, it's going to be again, more polished, more produced. It's not going to be so raw as some of those early Patti Smith group albums are. But yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to all of these. Please let me know in the comments, you know, if you're a fan of these records, if you know these records well. Let me know in the comments what, you know, what you think are the highlights of these records, where you think I should go with these artists' catalogs moving into the future, like which other records I should be on the lookout for. Also, let me know any of your latest pickups from your local record store, because I'd love to hear about those as well. Please do like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. I have everything playlisted, so if you want to see any of my studio albums ranked shows, I have a playlist for those. If you want to see some of my favorite albums of all time shows, I have a playlist for those. And if you want to see my appearances on other people's channels, like Rock Daydream Nation, I also have a playlist for those. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram, Twitter, and a bunch of other places. I also have a dedicated bicyclelegs Facebook page. Links are all in the doobly-doo. Please do give those all a follow and join in the conversation. I'd really love to have you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.